ようこそ。
To my class. We are now going to take everything we have learned and put it together. That means we're evolving from Squirtle to Wartortle. We are still early on, but we're going to gain those last skills that all languages share. Today is methods and classes, but not the school kind. Now, what is a class? A class is a fancy name for a group of code in a file that is contained in squiggly brackets and can be called from a different file. So far, we have done all of our work in one class called Hello Dio. Now we will make a new class called Pain in the Class. You see that public class Pain in the Class right at the top? We ignored it before, but that is what defines a class. You say it's public because everyone everywhere can see it. You explicitly say everything in this squiggly is part of the same class, and then you name it. In this class, we are going to do things a little bit differently than we did in Hello Dio. So far, we have done all of our stuff in a single method, the main method. But what if we had a super complex AI in the cloud with lollipops and rainbows? Well, that would be a really long method with a ton of duplicated lines of code, and it'd just be really hard to read. But what if we had a better way?
Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
So let's start by writing some functionality in a new method in our pain in the class. Same as our main method, we want it to be public so that everyone can see it. We will get into the static in a later video, but know that it's important. Void is used to say we aren't returning anything, which we will get into in a minute. In the method, let's just print out hello za warudo. So write public static void method to the madness system.out.println hello za warudo. From here, we will go back to hello dio, and we're going to call this from our main method there. You do this by first typing the class name down, putting a dot, and then typing the method name that you care about, with some parentheses at the end. So we're going to write pain in the class dot method to the madness. Run it, and bam! It works just like having the print line right there. So whenever you want to write that line, you can just call this method, and changing it in one place will change it everywhere you call it. No more Command or Control F and hunting down every time you wrote that line down. Methods are even more powerful than this though, because like our main method hints, they can also accept values to use in them as well. These are called parameters, and they're just swell. So let's go back to pain in the class and teach it addition. This is going to be very similar to our method we already wrote, except now instead of a void, it will have a type int. And instead of leaving the parentheses empty, we'll put two more ints in them. The int on the outside is called a return type. It's what the method will give you back after it runs. The ints on the inside are our parameters that we want to use to do stuff. It's like petting a dog and getting love in return. Pets go in, love comes out. In our case, pets are numbers, and love are the two numbers together, because we're adding them. So we're going to write public static int add open parentheses int a, comma, int b, close parentheses. Now you put your squiggly brackets, and then on the inside, int c equals a plus b, semicolon, and then we're going to return c. How this works is by assigning our c variable to the addition of a and b. Then we tell our computer, hey, looking for that there return value? We'll take a look at this return value. And in fact, we can actually do this all in one line, because return statements do everything in front of it first, and then return whatever's left. So instead of return c, just do return a plus b, and get rid of that line above it. And going back to our Hello Dio class, we can now take advantage of this new addition method. So well, in our main method, we can do int addition equals pain in the class dot add 1, 2, and then system.out.println addition. And when we run it, we'll see
It's alive!
well, actually it's 3, but the method is
Alive!
And just like how we simplified the return statement, we can simplify calling the method to be in line too. So just system.out.println pain in the class dot add 1, 2. Something we will get into a bit later is the best practice about how to use methods and classes to make your code easy to read and easy to keep up to date, aka maintainable. But the keep it simple approach is group similar things together. You don't have a limit on the number of classes or methods you can create, but make sure that similar topics stay together. You don't want to try to mix your Harry Potter with your Star Trek. This ain't fan fiction. One more topic that is closely related is class variables. These are variables that you declare outside of your methods, and all your methods in that class can call. So in our pane in the class, we can add this class variable at the top called constant. So type private static int constant equals 5. Then we can create a new method called add constant, which will only take one parameter. So write public static int add constant int a, and then return a plus constant. And then we'll go back to hello do and call it by adding a system.out.println pane in the class add constant 5. And when you run this method, you'll see the result is 5 plus 5, which equals 10. And just like how changing a method once changes it everywhere it's used, changing these class variables works the same way. So by changing our constant, you can change all references to constant all at once. This is super useful when you only want to use one of something in a file. So if we added a multiply constant, subtract constant, etc., we could reuse that same value again and again and again. Lastly, we're going to discuss something called constants. These are a more formal way of writing the constant we already made. They are class variables, but they're final, which means they can't be changed. If you want to call them from another class, you make them public and static. Lastly, they're written a bit differently. Instead of the camel case, where the first word is all lowercase and the rest are capitalized words, constants are all uppercase, and the breaks between words are marked with underscores. So we're going to rewrite our constant to public static final int constant, all capitalized, equals to 5, and then fix where we call our constant down below to account for this. Constants are super useful when you want to make, well, things that don't change in your class. By doing this long way of writing it down, it allows other classes to reference the constant too. And as a note, constants should really only be primitives or strings that you know will be relatively stable from code release to code release. Because they're things that you don't want to change while your code is running. You want them to just be what they are. I think that's enough information for today. Next time, we're going to start to diverge a little bit in what programming languages offer and start discussing one of the core pillars of programming, object orientation. So, until next time,
Live long and prosper.
like, subscribe, and comment below what you want to see next or topics you'd like to know more about.